Have you ever looked at an athlete on TV, whether it be an Olympian, football, or basketball player, any world class athlete, and said, how in the world do they look like that? Some have worked their whole life, some are just genetic freaks of nature, but some try and shortcut, loophole their way to achieve that level of athleticism by using performance enhancing drugs. Today, I'm going to talk about a controversial topic known as gene doping. Gene doping is the transfer of genes or genetically modified cells into an individual as a potential method for illicitly enhancing athletic performance. For example, Lance Armstrong, the famous cyclist, was stripped of his glory for using a banned performance-enhancing drug called EPO. EPO increases red blood cell production, which in turn improves the amount of oxygen that the blood can transport through the blood's muscles. In simple terms, gene doping would potentially do this at the genetic level instead of taking it from an outside source via PED. In order to understand the process of gene doping, we must first take a step back and understand gene therapy. The intention of gene therapy is to fix a faulty or damaged gene or to insert a completely new one. When doing so, the gene is not inserted directly into a cell, for it usually doesn't function. Instead, injected directly into the part of the body that is in question is a virus carrying the gene called a vector. This vector is injected with intent to fix the area of the body in question. Gene doping involves not inserting DNA to fix a damaged gene, but solely for the purpose of enhancing athletic performance. The two types of gene doping can be on the inside of the body or on the outside. On the inside, the vector can be given intravenously into a specific tissue where it is taken up by individual cells. On the other hand, a blood sample can be taken from the patient and exposed to the vector in a lab, which will then be returned to the patient. Now, let's dive into the real ethics of this issue and talk about some of the pros and some of the cons. The first pro of gene doping is that it would unlock the door for athletes to maximize their physical performance. It would only increase their strength and stamina, leaving their actual skill, intelligence, and discipline unaffected, which are vital pieces to an athlete's success. Thus, it wouldn't entirely give the athletes who use gene doping a huge advantage. Another pro of gene doping is that it can prove to be beneficiary when it comes to sustaining and recovering from a devastating injury, whether on a professional or casual level. Treating and dealing with such injuries can be emotionally tough, time-consuming, and very expensive. Gene doping would help athletes recover more quickly and cut down the cost. Now, let us take on the opposite view and look at some cons. Gene doping would violate a lot of morals regarding the entire essence of sports, the main being fairness. The results that came about from experiments with mice, the mice with the gene doping could run twice as far as the normal mice. It goes without saying that if this could be replicated with humans, it would be very unfair. Another con is the financial side of gene doping. Experts have estimated that between 1 million to 3 million performance-enhancing drug users in America, and that of all of those illegal users, they share a bill of over $7.4 billion a year. If you do the math, it shows that a majority of people wouldn't be able to afford those kinds of procedures. After doing some research and writing my script, I've been given enough insight to take my own firm stance in this issue. I believe that gene doping should not be permitted. I think that it gives the athletes with access to it a ridiculous advantage as opposed to those who don't utilize it. Let's look at it through a boxing fight. If two boxers with identical skill, IQ, and discipline fought each other, but one of them had gene doping, the gene doper would win. I also believe it would start to snowball, as it would lead to other shady ways of increasing athletic performance. Thank you for listening, and I hope this presentation was able to give you some insight on a controversial bioethics topic that could be subject for debate for a long time coming.